Hello students, now based on all these discussions that we have done, I am now moving on to Newton's second law of motion. So far we have seen that if some force is applied on a body, so its velocity change. So if the velocity changes with time, then we can understand that the acceleration of the body also changes. Means if large force is applied on a body, then it may gain more velocity in short interval of time, or if a small force is applied, then it will gain the equal change in velocity in a larger amount of time. So means to produce small acceleration we can apply small force, and to produce large accelerations we need to apply larger accelerations. So now based on all these things, Newton concluded that force is always required to produce some acceleration in bodies. So his observations were, the first observation is the acceleration produced in the body is directly proportional to the force. So acceleration is directly proportional to the applied force, provided mass is constant. So as the force increases, the acceleration produced will also increase. So let us draw a graph for this. So if we are taking force on x-axis and acceleration on y-axis, and if the mass is constant, then with the increase in force, acceleration also increases. So this was his first observation. Now, and if we have, or if we want same acceleration in different masses, so means now if I need acceleration to be constant in two masses or in two bodies having different masses, then the lighter body will gain more acceleration with the applied force than the heavier body. So means if mass of the body increases, then the force required to produce the required acceleration also increases. So the second conclusion from Newton was the force required is also directly proportional to mass to produce same acceleration. Acceleration is constant. So now for this, if I'm taking mass on x-axis and force on the y-axis, then with the rise in mass, force required to produce same acceleration also increases. So here acceleration is constant. So these are the conditions that we need to take care of. So first condition was acceleration is proportional to force. So more acceleration, more force required. And second is force produced is also force required to produce same acceleration is also proportional to mass. Means if mass increases, then force required to produce same acceleration is also increases. So therefore now combining these two conditions, force is directly proportional to product of mass and acceleration. Or we already know this, if I want to remove this proportionality constant, then we need to apply some constant. So let us say that that constant is k multiply m. Now the values of m and a are so chosen that the value of k is also 1. Means for m is equal to 1 kg and acceleration is also 1 meter per second square, then force is taken as 1 unit. Then force is taken as 1 unit, or we can say that 1 Newton. So at that time, for all these values, k will be equal to 1. For all these things, k will be equal to 1. So therefore, 1 is equal to k multiply 1 multiply 1. So from here we get k is equal to 1. Or we can say that mass and acceleration are so chosen so that the value of k becomes equal to 1 unit of force. So therefore, we get force is equal to ma. Force is equal to ma, or force is equal to the product of the mass and acceleration. And one more thing now I want to talk is, if the force is constant, if the force is constant, then with the increase in mass, or we can say that the lighter body will get more accelerated. Let us say that I'm taking mass on the x-axis and acceleration on the y-axis for the case of force constant. Force constant. So means from this relation, if I'm taking that force is constant, then I can say that acceleration produced is direct inversely proportional to the mass. Means less mass, more acceleration. So as the mass increases, the acceleration of the body decreases. So this will be the graph of acceleration versus mass. So force is, for constant force, acceleration produced in the body is inversely proportional to the mass. Means if more mass, then acceleration produced will be less, and if less mass is there, then acceleration produced in the body will be more. So now we have seen that force is equal to the product of mass and acceleration. Now we have to talk about the unit. And if I am talking about the SI unit, then in that case, force will be equal to ma, and in SI, if mass is equal to 1 kg and acceleration is equal to 1 meter per second square, then force produced will be equal to 1 kg multiplying 1 meter per second square. So that will be equal to 1 kg meter per second square. Now this is dedicated to Sir Newton. So this is called as 1 Newton, or we can say that this is equal to 1 Newton of force. Now we have to define this. It means what is 1 Newton of force? So 1 Newton of is that force which, when acts on a body of mass 1 kg, produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square. So means from this definition we can define this now. So if we apply acceleration, or if we need acceleration of 1 meter per second square on a body of 1 kg, then the force required will be called as 1 Newton. So 1 Newton is that force which, when acts on a body of mass 1 kg, produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square. And similarly, in CGS unit, if mass is equal to 1 gram and acceleration is equal to 1 centimeter per second square, so now the force will be equal to 1 gram centimeter per second square, or we will say that the force is equal to 1 dyne. So now what is 1 dyne of force? So now 1 dyne is that force, or is the force which, when acts on a body of mass 1 gram, produces an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square. Now we have to talk about the relationship between these two. So since we know that 1 Newton is equal to 1 kg meter per second square. Now this 1 kg in grams will be equal to 1000 gram, and meter, or 1 meter in centimeter, is 100 centimeters. And in both the units, the unit of time is second. So if I multiply these two, so we get this as equal to 1 lakh gram centimeter per second square. So therefore we can say that 1 Newton is equal to 10 raised to power 5 dyne. So this is a relationship between SI and CGS unit of force. Now we have to talk about the relationship, or relationship between momentum and force. So in our previous parts, we have already seen that the rate of change of momentum. So we have already seen this, the rate of change of momentum is equal to mass multiply acceleration. And we have also seen now that force is also equal to mass multiply acceleration. So now on combining these two, so what we get is the force is equal to the change in momentum, means delta P over delta T, or delta mv over delta T. Or for mass constant we have seen this is equal to m multiply delta V over delta T, or this is equal to mass multiply acceleration. So these all are the relationship. So means in the first law, or first law is used to define. So first law used to define force, but we were not able to calculate it. Now the second law measures the amount of force. So means sometimes we just say that the first law gives the qualitative study of force, whereas the second gives quantitative, means it defines the force in the terms of quantities that can be measured. So now combining all these things, or from all these things, we can now write the statement for Newton's second law. So now Newton's second law states that the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied on it, and that change always takes place in the direction in which the force is applied. So it states that the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied on it, and this change and the change in momentum takes place in the direction of applied force. So this is the form. Now we have to remember one very important thing, that this condition always holds when the mass remains constant. So the conditions required for this to satisfy, and this is very important part. Now once again we have already discussed about this. So condition is when the mass is constant and mass remains constant when the motion, or when the velocity of the body is much smaller than the velocity of light, or when velocity of body in motion is much smaller than velocity of light, means c. So the velocity of the object must be very lesser than c. This is what we have already discussed. Now we can also obtain the first law from the second law. Means in the second law says that the force is equal to mass multiply acceleration. Now we can say that if force is 0, means if there is no applied force on the body, then the acceleration will be equal to 0. Means if the body is at rest, so it will remain at rest. Acceleration will also be 0, means it will remain at rest. And if the body is in motion, if the body is in motion or already in motion, then applied force will be 0, then also it will not be accelerated. Means, so in this case we can say that if external force is absent, therefore no change in state. of motion, or rest we can say, means since acceleration is equal to 0. So external force is absent means if force is 0, then no change in state means acceleration is equal to 0. Now one very important topic is also we have talked about, so that is impulse. I'm naming this, actually this is not mentioned in your book, but this is also a quantity. So impulse is when a large force acts for a very small time, then that force or that amount of force is called as impulse. So impulse is equal to force multiply time. Force multiply time. So in the case of, let us take the example, father's slap on the face. So this, in that case, very large force acts for a very short time. So impulse can be measured in this way now. So force, we have seen that force is change in momentum. So means m multiply v2 minus v1 over t and multiply t. So this impulse is equal to m multiply v2 minus v1, that is equal to change in momentum. That is equal to change in momentum. Or from here we can also say now, so since we have seen this now, so change in momentum, so therefore one more thing that can be discussed from here is force. So from here I can get force is equal to impulse over time. Force is equal to impulse over time, and impulse I have seen here now, so that is equal to change in momentum, means let us say that now m into v2 minus v1 over t, or p2 minus p1, or p2 minus p1 over t. Now let us talk about some examples of second law of motion in daily life. So we have already seen this. We have seen that F is equal to P2 minus P1 over delta T, or change in time. Or we can also say that this change in momentum P2 minus P1 is equal to F multiply delta T. So means the change in momentum can be brought by applying a large force for short time or a small force for longer time. Let us have some examples now. So in the first example, I'm saying that in the case of hitting a cricket ball with bat, so we talk about the term timing. So when someone hit the ball with a bat, then the time duration of hitting is very small. Then the time duration of hitting is very small. So therefore the change in momentum will be larger, since there is change in the direction of the ball. So in that case the larger force will be applied in very short time. Or in some other cases, while catching a ball. So while catching a ball, the cricketers withdraw or pull their hands along with the ball backwards. So in this case, the time duration in which the ball hit the hands increases. The time duration in which the ball hits the hands increases, and there is also a change in the momentum. So with the increasing time, the effect of force decreases. So let us see that I'm talking about, for example, I have some ball or cricket ball of mass 0.5 kg, and it's moving with velocity 10 meter per second. Then the initial momentum, so let us say that P1 will be equal to m multiply v, so that will be equal to 0.5 multiply 10, so that will be 5 kg meter per second. And now on catching, so if someone catch the ball, the velocity will be equal to 0, so therefore momentum will be equal to 0. So now for this, the change in momentum will be equal to 0 minus 5, so that will be equal to minus 5 kg meter per second. Now if someone catches the ball immediately, then the time will be very short, or the time to catch the ball will be very short. So therefore in this case the magnitude of force will be equal to the change in momentum over time. So for the time being, I'm saying that the time taken to catch the ball is 0.1 second. So now the magnitude of force will be equal to 50 Newton. But if while catching the cricketer withdraws his hands backwards, then the time to take the catch increases. So now suppose that the time taken is 0.5 second. So now the magnitude of the force will be equal to 10 Newton. So there will be decrease in the time. There is increase in the time duration. So therefore the effect of force decreases. So we can have a look at these two values. So there is very large decrease if with the increase in time. Similarly, in other examples, the athletes, when the athletes jump, they always land on sand or foam. So in this case also, if they jump on the cemented floor, then the time to land will be very short or very small. So therefore they may hurt their feet because of a large force acting for a very short time. But in the case of foam, the time taken to jump will increase. So therefore the effect of force decreases. Similarly, in the case of a glass vessel falling on the hard floor, so when the glass falls on a very hard floor, then it breaks because the time taken is very small, and due to large effect of force it may break. But when it fall on the carpet or on the sand, then it does not break because the time taken increases, so therefore the effect of force will also decrease. So the glass does not break when it fall on the carpet. So similarly, you can have look some examples from our daily life. And now I hope that you can complete your exercise 3C. Thank you. Have a nice day.